Here's what we have lined up for you today. Here on The Now, we are at the point where a lot of us don't answer calls from numbers that we don't know just because of the concerns over robocalls. Well, now there's a new way that scammers are trying to get you. And we're on the northern coast of California. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of mussels are dying, and we're getting answers on what's behind it and the future consequences. And food available at work, let's face it, not always the healthiest. And reading food labels isn't always an option, or they can just be confusing. So we're taking a look at a new system that is making it easier to know what the healthiest option is.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Amanda Starantino, and you're watching The Now Indy on RTV6. Look for changes to your commute on the west side as the Department of Public Works closes 4 ramps servicing a bridge on a major road. Our Elena Martella has all the info you need to know about these closures.
Your commutes might get a little messy as DPW closes 4 ramps to access the Kessler Boulevard Bridge. So here's what you need to know to get around the closures. Those ramps in question are leading to the Kessler Bridge over 38th Street and I-65. And it's all part of a nearly $2 million project completely rehabbing the concrete ramps on the west side of the bridge. There are signs to let you know how you can access Kessler Boulevard, 38th Street, and I-65, but the main suggested detour routes include using 30th Street to enter and exit Kessler Boulevard to reach your destination. One driver we spoke with says she's not too happy.
They should do partial lanes or something. I don't know. I don't deal with all that, but there's a way to go about doing it without shutting down those ramps, because now people will have to go way out of their way.
We asked DPW why the full closure is needed, and officials tell us, quote, it's safest and quickest to work under a complete closure. Trying to maintain safe conditions for workers while allowing traffic on half of the ramps would likely double the construction time period, end quote. This work is part of a $400 million infrastructure plan passed by the City County Council to rehab bridges, rebuild roads, and increase pedestrian safety through 2022. Working for you, Elena Martella, RTV6.
Thank you, Elena. And for complete detour routes, as well as a map of the closures, you can search this story on our website at theindychannel.com or the RTV6 app. The city of Indianapolis has just released its second list of abandoned and vacant structures slated for demolition. This latest demo bid package marks the second round of structures to be demolished by the city in 2019. The bid package includes 25 structures. The first bid package, released back in January, contained 32 structures, including the Trinity Body Shop in the 2400 block of East Washington. Many of the structures listed in that bid package have been removed, with the remaining expected to come down within the next couple of months. Kyle.
Amanda, let's take a look over downtown Indianapolis. It looks nice, but it is hot. We have got to start with those temperatures this afternoon. One of the hottest days that we've had in Indianapolis made it up to 93 degrees. You're still at 93 in Greenwood, 91 in Bloomington, 87 in Muncie. That's because we've got a downpour moving through town. We'll take a look at that in just a second. But we factor in that humidity. The heat index has been 100 degrees or a little bit warmer this afternoon. Still feels like 103 in Bloomington. Some serious heat in Peru and Lafayette with your heat index at 100 degrees. We are starting to see a few of these thunderstorms bubbling up this afternoon. You can see across Park County, northeast of Rockville, some lightning in that one that stretches into southern portions of Montgomery County. A couple more around Carroll County here, northeast of Lafayette and west of Kokomo. These are going to continue to slide to the east. There's that downpour over Muncie right now and moving between Hartford City and into the Portland area. There's that marginal risk over the northwestern half of the state. Some of those storms could have some gusty winds later this afternoon. Chris.
Be on the lookout for a cut in interest rates. That tops our news feed. The head of the Federal Reserve signaled the Fed is ready to cut rates this month. This would be the first cut in a decade. Chairman Jerome Powell says a weakening global economy and rising trade tensions are behind the potential move. A federal appeals court ordering a dismissal of a lawsuit accusing the president of profiting off his presidency. Maryland and D.C. sued President Trump back in 2017, both accusing him of taking profits from dignitaries who stayed at his Washington hotel. More rainfall records for the United States. Federal scientists say June completed the wettest year in American history. It's the third straight year the U.S. has hit a record high. President Trump wants to make big changes to improve kidney care in America. Corey Rangel's taking a look at the action the president says will help save lives.
Gordon Lamborn spent more than 15 years living with kidney disease and its life-changing side effects.
The toxins start building up in your system. You feel sick. all those things were happening to me.
3 days a week, he spent hours at a dialysis center hooked up to a machine to keep him alive.
At the end of a session, you're tired. You feel somewhat drained physically from a low energy.
Today, President Trump signed an executive order to revamp care for kidney disease, which is the nation's 9th leading cause of death, killing more people than breast cancer. Part of the president's plan includes pushing patients to get dialysis treatment at home instead of at more expensive treatment centers. The president also wants to prevent kidney failure through better treatment and preventative care. And the plan hopes to double the number of kidney transplants by the year 2030, which includes the use of artificial kidneys.
Roughly 100,000 Americans are currently awaiting a kidney donation. Every day, 10 of our fellow citizens die waiting. Many, many people are dying while they wait.
Meanwhile, Gordon admits he is one of the fortunate patients. His wife, Marcy, turned out to be a match and donated one of her kidneys to him.
I realize how lucky I am, and I just hope that there's things that are being done so lots of people can have that same experience.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Corey Rangel reporting.
All right, Corey, thank you. And we are used to robocalls with our area code to try to get us to pick up. But now scammers, they're changing their tactics again, and we're taking a look ahead in our lineup.
715151.
Welcome back to the Now Indy on RTV6. CVS Pharmacy is introducing quicker and more accessible options for seeking medical treatment, all from the comfort of your home. CVS has just rolled out its virtual visit 2-minute clinics in 8 new states, including Indiana. Virtual Visit is a 24-hour video service that allows patients to speak to a licensed healthcare provider and seek medical treatment. The services are reserved for minor illnesses, injuries, and skin conditions, and each patient is required to complete a questionnaire beforehand with complete medical history. The virtual visits are offered at select CVS pharmacies and Target stores. You can seek treatment from your phone, computer, or the CVS Pharmacy app.
Let's start the Now News feed. Disney Channel star Cameron Boyce died from a seizure caused by epilepsy. That's according to a family spokesperson, the 20-year-old dying on Saturday. The British government turning to Alexa to help with health questions. The British healthcare service will use Amazon's digital voice assistant to answer questions that come in on its website. The goal is to help those who have a hard time accessing the internet. Well, check out this video here. You are looking at a shark fight. Drone video of this happening off of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Experts knew that white sharks, that they fought each other, but they say this is the first time that it was caught on camera. Today we have a new alert about a new tactic that robocallers are using to scam you. Well, investigative reporter Jace Larson's here with what you need to watch for.
Hey, Chris, it used to be that scam artists just wanted to call as many people as possible, hoping that at least a few would fall for it. Well, now these scam artists are changing their tactics. All this is according to a new report from First Orion. The scam artists now want quality over quantity. In 75% of the calls, the report says that scammers already had a good chunk of the victim's personal information, meaning they already had a good idea of what they wanted to do to try and take advantage of that victim. And they use that information to try and spoof the numbers that they're calling from to look like nowadays they're calling from a company that you do business with. Here's an example. Let's say you upgraded your iPhone recently. The scam artists might make the numbers on your caller ID appear as though they're from Apple. First Orion found that this tactic is getting more popular than the one scammers had been using, where they just made it look like the call was coming from your area code. Now, one solution is coming from AT&T. That company says it's starting automatic blocking of robocalls in the United States, and it's going to be activated by default. AT&T says it will first put the new feature on new lines of service, and then it's going to roll it out to existing lines in the coming months. Chris?
All right, good information, Jace. Thank you. Let's get back to our lineup. And plastic bag waste, it is a big issue, but now a new project could reduce it and save lives at the same time. Ahead, we're going to show you a solution that is already having an impact.
RTV6 is working for you.
How about this for a way to try and prevent crime? The city of Philadelphia continues to install these speakers around park and rec centers. And the speakers, they have a high-pitched sound that mostly only young people can hear. The city's trying to stop people from getting into trouble and hanging around after hours. There are some people who are against this. They see it as a form of prejudice, or they say, oh, adults can actually hear that noise. So they've been banned in some places. The company that makes these speakers, Moving Sound Technologies, says it does sell them mainly for private use. It lists a noise setting for young people and one that will annoy people of any age. We traveled to Modesto, California last year, where a 7-Eleven store owner was blasting opera music for similar reasons. It was to keep the homeless from loitering and to help customers feel safer. Each year, an estimated 1 trillion plastic bags are consumed worldwide, with billions ending up as litter. Now a college student is turning one of the world's biggest waste products into a way to save lives. Kai Beach showing us how.
That's where we would sleep back there, behind a trash can.
When the streets are where you sleep, every little thing you have is a big deal.
Me and my mom have lived through this. Sometimes our signs have said blankets before, not even spare change.
And while blankets can help protect people from Mother Nature, there's nothing as strong as a mother's love for her child.
My life. I would give my life for my son.
So when Lily Silversmith saw her son cold and shivering on the streets of Salt Lake City, they had to find some way to keep dry and stay warm.
There were times where the cardboard would get soaking wet, but these would still be great, just fine, sturdy as can be.
That's when they found this.
It takes a while just to make one.
Bags to Beds.
What, 3 months?
A product from a pending nonprofit that turns plastic grocery bags into sleeping mats.
They gave it to us. Thank you, Bags to Beds. Thank you, thank you, thank you for saving me and my mom's life. Thank you.
And this is where the project started, the University of Utah campus, where a now medical student had the idea of turning plastic bags into beds.
That's why at every project I always say, collect the grocery bags that people are already using.
Stitch by stitch, these college students are turning plastic bags into bedding for people that need them the most.
Just a quarter of the bag, so just like this.
Caitlin McLean started this project as a way to reduce waste while also helping the homeless.
Gonna fluff it out. I found out about how many people who freeze to death in Salt Lake specifically every year. It's about over 100 people every year who freeze sleeping outside. And I just couldn't wrap my head around that.
McLean is now wrapping, cutting, and crocheting more of these sleeping mats, already finishing and handing out more than 100 of them, with the goal of having another 100 ready by this winter.
Our goal is to make it so that these resources are so widely available that if a person needs a bed, they can get a bed. And then also to reduce waste to the point where we don't have plastic bags ending up in our waterways and killing animals.
And while love alone isn't enough to fight off winter in somewhere like Salt Lake City, sometimes turning trash into treasure can do more than just warm the heart.
If it wasn't for these Bags to Beds, we would not be here right now.
It can save lives.
I love you, Mom.
I'm Kai Beach reporting.
The Children's Museum of Indianapolis is joining the critics of the way children are being treated at detention facilities for immigrants. The museum issued this statement joining with the National Association of Children's Museums in condemning those detention facilities. The statement says, quote, through forced separations and inhumane treatment in overcrowded, unsanitary facilities, the United States is denying children their basic human rights. The Children's Museum is calling on the government to create what it calls a more permanent policy effort to ensure the immediate humane treatment of immigrant and refugee children and families in detention. Kyle.
Amanda, that heat has been building all day long, and now we've got a front, so that's kind of triggering off some thunderstorms. As we're looking northwest out of downtown, you can see that hazy sunshine, but it's actually here to the northeast where we've got a severe thunderstorm warning for Jay County, including Portland, until 6:30 this evening, primarily for some gusty winds around 60 miles per hour. This did have some hail indications with it, but that has really been dropping out. And then the storm that's approaching areas east of Muncie now in eastern Delaware County, County. That storm could also have some 50 to 55 mile-per-hour wind gusts in it. Same story here as we go back toward Rockville and Park County, also into northwestern Putnam County. So these storms, as they pulse up this afternoon, could have some gusty winds, and we've got one more downpour that's developing here between Bloomington and Nashville in western portions of Brown County. By 8:30 this evening, still some scattered showers and thunderstorms going to be out there, and any of these storms will likely have some frequent lightning and some heavy rainfall, as they are going to be some slow movers. So we'll watch out for some isolated flooding issues. But yeah, we still have that heat and humidity to talk about. The heat index is 100 degrees right now in Lafayette. Feels like 103 in Bloomington, 91 the actual temperature, 89 in Indy. Flip those numbers around, gives us our feels like number of 98. Tonight, we're not going to cool down as much. After those evening storms, we're into the lower 70s with partly cloudy skies. And after this chance for rain this evening, probably still going to need to water that lawn here, as it looks like a dry stretch of weather right through the weekend as we're going to heat things back up. Tomorrow, not quite as hot, not quite as humid either. It's still going to be warm and muggy. Those temperatures back into the lower 80s for us by 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll build in a few more clouds through the afternoon. 84 degrees for you at 2 o'clock, and the afternoon high will be in the middle 80s. So right about where we should be for this time of year. We'll get a break from the 90s once again. 84 in Rockville, Muncie at 87, and Columbus at 88 degrees. Then as we go toward the end of the week, 85 will be your afternoon high with those mostly sunny skies. Next 4 days of your forecast, well, we've got that heat building back in for the weekend, highs around 90.
Mazda recalling more than 262,000 SUVs and cars. That starts our Now news feed. All of this is to fix a software problem that could cause engines to stall without warning. Mazda says drivers will be able to take their vehicles to a dealership to get that fixed. Well, if you have a Chase credit card, you want to listen up, because you have 30 days left to retain your right to sue. If you don't opt out, you will enter binding arbitration, and you could have some limited legal rights. If you ever have a dispute with the company, to opt out, you have to send a letter to Chase. Concerns about record-breaking flooding. The federal government is predicting 40 places in the U.S. will have higher than normal rates of tidal flooding this year. They say rising sea levels are to blame. The report predicts records will not only be broken this year, but they expect it to happen in years to come. A record-breaking heat wave in Santa Rosa in Northern California last month is causing some unexpected consequences for marine animals. Well, specifically, all these mussels right here. Our Chris Welch traveled to California's coastline to get a closer look at what this could mean for the big picture in the years ahead.
My first reaction, of course, was concern.
Concern. Because when biologist Jackie Soanes came down to the shore last month, California had just experienced days of record high temperatures.
It's a very challenging couple of days for me.
The kinds of temperatures that can be deadly for the marine animals she's studied for years.
And once you start realizing that it's hundreds of thousands of mussels that have died.
Really? Hundreds of thousands? Mussels, the tiny aquatic creatures with a hinged shell, typically grow in groups. Their dark shells are sealed shut and they're tightly bound to the rock.
This is a good example of a dead mussel. The shells are open. You can see the lighter internal portions of the shell. The actual muscle that would hold the two halves of the shell together is missing.
When mussels reach an internal temperature of 93 degrees, Soanes says they have trouble surviving.
The estimate is about 105 degrees. It could have even been warmer than that.
That same week brought record temperatures elsewhere too. In South Dakota, for example, roads buckled at 94 degrees. Many scientists believe the frequency of extreme events like these could be attributed to global warming.
I think it shows that climate change will influence us in so many ways, directly on humans and then on humans via the ecosystem.
There are hundreds of other species that are living below the mussels. So when they're washed off the rocks, it affects all those other animals, sort of cascading effect throughout the system.
That's an effect Soanes says we should all be concerned about.
The mussels are providing a warning. They're telling you that something's not right, and it's important to pay attention to that and to think about the cause.
Reporting in Bodega Bay, California, I'm Chris Welch.
All right, Chris, thank you. And next in our lineup, a makeover for food labels that's helping people make healthier choices at work, where we do tend to splurge on the bad stuff.